Okay, still in Chapter 7, we're going to look at Exercise 712 on page 383. And here we're calculating eventually an applied factory overhead rate per unit based on different levels of production. So let's read through it. The normal capacity of a manufacturing plant is 7,500 units per month. Fixed overhead at this volume is $10,000. Okay, and variable overhead is $15,000. Additional data follow. Okay, so what they're saying is that our fixed factory overhead at 7,500 units per month, which is normal capacity. Our fixed overhead at that level is $10,000. Okay, and you're familiar with it. Our fixed factory overhead is going to be the same at every level, but let's put in the next level of production. So for month 1, our production in units went to 7875. Okay, I'm going to leave that there for now. What we want to know is what percentage of 7,500 is that. So what we'll do, I'm just going to drop down to this space to figure it out. We want to know what percentage of 7,500 is 7875. Well, I'm just going to say 7875 minus 7,500 gives me 375. Divide that by our base number of 7,500. That's how much it's over 7,500 by 375. Well, what percentage of 7,500 is that? 5%. So what we're saying here, 7,875 units is 105% of capacity, or 7,500 units. So I'm going to go ahead and say 105%. Okay, and then in month 2, we have 6,750 units. Sorry, it's hard for me to talk and type sometimes at the same time. What percentage is that? Well, that's below capacity. By how many units? 250, 750 units. So again, you got to divide the 750 divided by 7,500, the base number. Of course, that's 10%, which is 10% less than normal capacity. So that leaves us here at 90%. Okay. And I'm going to put above here normal capacity. It says it in your book, but that won't hurt. Here we're 105% of normal capacity or above it. Here we're 10% below normal capacity. Well, no matter where we're at, remember fixed factory overhead doesn't change. It's the same amount no matter what our level of production, as long as we're in that same manufacturing facility. So we got 10,000 here and here. Our variable factory overhead, surprised I was able to type that while talking to you. Okay, variable factory overhead at normal capacity is $15,000. But remember, variable overhead will change with the number of units produced. It'll increase if we go above normal capacity. It'll decrease if we go below normal capacity. So what we do here, you get the amount of variable factory overhead if we produce 7,875 units, or 105% of normal capacity. To get the amount of variable factory overhead, we just say our normal variable factory overhead times 105%, or times 1.05. So variable factory overhead at 105% of normal capacity would be 15,750. To get our variable factory overhead at 90% of normal capacity, we'll say 15,000 times, you guessed it, 0.9. Now we want to total these, so we'll sum each column. And then I'm just going to bring that over. Okay. And we'll call that total factory overhead, as you might have guessed. All right, now, our applied factory overhead per unit on these different months. Let's make this one month 1. And this one month 2. Kind of changing the template a little as we go. Okay. So under normal capacity, our applied factory overhead rate per unit, or how much overhead we would include in work in process per unit at normal capacity, would be our 25,000 total factory overhead divided by our 7,500 units, and we get $3.33 per unit applied factory overhead at normal capacity. And what you're going to notice, if we're able to operate above normal capacity, this number is going to go down. Let's just bring our, can't bring the formula over. We'll have to say total overhead divided by 78.75. We get $3.27 per unit there. And then when we're below normal capacity, this applied factory overhead rate per unit is going to increase. It's going to be equal to our total 23,500 divided by spread over fewer units, 6,750. So the rate goes up to $3.48. And you guys, we'd multiply by that rate to get the amount of applied overhead to include in work in process, then eventually finished goods and cost of goods sold. I think that one's a fairly straightforward problem. Practice it with me in the video, and then I don't think you'll have any trouble with your next homework problem, exercise 711, on page 383 as well. Thanks a lot.